Want to master grammar so you can speak properly, express yourself better, and understand more? In this video, I'll show you how to master grammar with our lessons and learning program. Let's begin. Number 1. Listen to the lesson conversations and explanations. In every lesson, you learn a conversation. Then, our teachers break down every word and grammar rule. So you're actually learning grammar rules in the context of conversations, and you can easily see how they're used. Once you're done, review the conversation again and again to remember what you've learned. Number 2. Read the bonus explanations and tutorials. With the lesson notes, you get extra grammar explanations and examples that are not presented in the lesson. After you're done with the lesson, read the lesson notes for extra review. You can even save them as PDFs so that you can access them anytime. Number 3. Leave a comment on the lesson. Once you've learned a grammar point, be sure to use it. Leave a comment in the comments section. Write some example sentences for practice. Our teachers will review your comment and give you feedback. Number 4. Unlock even more grammar lessons. If you want to find all of the grammar lessons available, visit our lesson library. Under Category, choose Grammar. You'll get all of the pathways and lessons dedicated to helping you learn and master sentence patterns and grammar points. So, if you're ready to finally learn a new language the fast, fun, and easy way, sign up for your free lifetime account by clicking on the link in the description. Signing up takes less than 30 seconds, and you'll start speaking from your very first lesson. If you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share it with anyone who's trying to learn a new language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. I'll see you next time. Bye! Hi, welcome to Introduction to French. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Candice.
In this lesson, you'll learn the basics of French grammar. In some languages, like French, nouns are divided into different classes.
For example, French divides nouns into two classes using gender, masculine and feminine.
Let's take a look at some masculine nouns.
Lit, fromage, village, livre.
Now, feminine nouns.
Cuillère, bout, revue, syllabe.
There are some rules for learning the gender of French nouns, but they're quite complex. Many consider the designation of gender to be largely arbitrary, so it's likely that you'll just have to memorize them. Okay, so now you know that nouns are divided into gender classes, but why is this important?
Learning gender nouns is important for forming sentences in French. For example, lit means bed in French, and it's a masculine noun. If you want to refer to the bed in a sentence, however, you need to add le before the noun. Le lit. In fact, if you want to refer to any masculine noun in French, you need to use le or un. Le fromage, le village, un livre. On the other hand, we use la and une to refer to feminine nouns. La cuillère, la boue, une revue, une syllabe.
Now you know how to refer to nouns in French. Similar to nouns, French verbs can also be separated into different classes.
There are 3 classes of verbs in French, and they are verbs ending in -e, manger, nager, travailler, aimer. Verbs ending in -ir, finir, ralentir, réagir. And verbs ending in -re, voir, and -ir, mourir, recevoir, lire.
Each class of verbs will be conjugated differently when used in a sentence. Let's take a look at a few examples to see how they differ.
To swim is nager in French, and it comes from the first group because it ends in -e.
I swim in the present tense would be,
Je nage,
past tense would be,
je nageais,
and the future tense would be.
je nagerai.
Let's compare that to a verb in group 2.
To finish is finir in French, and it comes from the second group because it ends in ir. Je finis, je finissais, je finirais.
Finally, a verb from group 3.
To read is lire in French, and it comes from the third group because it ends with re. Je lis, je lisais, je lirais.
We'll teach you how to properly conjugate verbs of different classes in future lessons. For now, just know that there are 3 different categories of verbs in French. Okay, now you know about nouns and verbs in French. Let's learn how to form basic sentences in French.
Forming sentences in French is quite simple, especially for English speakers, as French uses the same word order as English.
Consider the following example.
Le garçon mange un gâteau.
In English, this sentence means, the boy eats a cake.
If we break down the French sentence, we can see that the order matches the English sentence one-to-one. Le, de, garçon, boy, mange, eats, un, gâteau, cake.
We can create basic sentences in French simply by exchanging English words for French words.
Notice how we use un here, because gâteau is a masculine noun. If the object had been a feminine noun, we'd have used une instead.
We can create any basic sentence in French by starting with a subject, in this case, the boy.
Le garçon
Then follow it with a verb, eats,
mange
and finally end with the object, the cake.
un gâteau.
As you can see, the word order in French is just like English. Finally, let's learn how to create negative sentences in French.
Negating sentences in French is simple. Simply add ne before the verb and pas after it. J'ai, je n'ai pas. J'aime lire, je n'aime pas lire. Juliette mange, Juliette ne mange pas. You can negate any basic sentence in French this way.
Well done! Let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what we've learned. In this lesson, you learned that French nouns are divided into 2 classes, masculine and feminine. Similar to nouns, French verbs are divided into 3 groups. French uses the same subject, verb, object, word order like English. And finally, you learned how to negate sentences in French. We've covered only the very basics of French grammar. If you're interested in learning more, check out our French in 3 Minutes video series. In that course, we teach you useful phrases while covering the fundamentals of French grammar, and each lesson is only 3 minutes long. In the next lesson, we'll introduce you to the basics of French writing. See you in the next lesson. Bye!
Bye!
Want to speak real French from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at FrenchPod101.com.
Hey watchers! This week we're gonna learn about top 25 French phrases. Let's go! Bonjour. Bonjour is hello. Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. Hey! Okay, now you can say bonjour any time of the day, even if it's night. Salut, hi. Hi is salut. Salut, comment ça va? Hey, how you doing? So, salut is like bonjour, and you can also use it to say hi and to say goodbye. So when you leave, you can also say salut, à la prochaine. Ça va. How are you? You can say ça va, like just after salut, ça va. Or bonjour, ça va. Or comment ça va? If you only say ça va, it's kind of missing something, so put it after a greeting. So, how are you? How you doing? Comment ça va? Bonsoir. Good evening. Not good night. Almost good night, but not. Bonsoir is also a greeting you can use when you leave or when you enter someone's place. For example, if you go in the evening to someone's house or party, you can say, bonsoir tout le monde. Bonne nuit. Good night. Good night is bonne nuit, person sleeping next to you. Bonne nuit. Or to your family when you go to sleep. Oui. Yes. yeah, oui. You also say yeah. Maybe you've heard oui, oui. Like French people often do this, oui, oui. It's also a cartoon for children, Oui, oui and his little car. You should try and watch it in French. It's very educative. Non, non, non. You have oui, oui and non, non. We often say them both. Just use yes and no, oui et non. Je m'appelle, my name is. Je m'appelle Lia. You knew that already, huh? What's your name? Leave it in the comment in French. S'il vous plaît, please. Please, s'il vous plaît. This is a polite version, and if you want the more friendly version, is s'il te plaît, if you're asking a friend. S'il te plaît, give me your candy, I'm starving. S'il te plaît, donne-moi des bonbons. L'addition s'il vous plaît. D'accord, okay. So we also use okay, but with a French accent. Okay. Hi, how you doing? When you come to the cinema with me? D'accord. Excusez-moi. Excuse me. If someone is blocking the way, you just say excusez-moi. Merci. Thank you. Please learn this one and be polite. In French, we just have merci. There is no short version of it, and you can use it for anyone. So when you receive something at the grocery store, ah, merci. Or when someone does you a favor, ah, merci. If you want to be really polite or really thankful, you can say merci beaucoup. Thanks a lot. De rien. So you are welcome. If someone says merci to you, you can just say ah, de rien. So merci et de rien. Those come in a pair, so learn them together. It's nice. Il est quelle heure? What time is it? Or quelle heure il est? You will more often hear the second version. So, oh, excusez-moi, quelle heure il est? Excuse me, what time is it? Où sont les toilettes? Where is the bathroom? We don't have many available bathrooms in public places, and usually they are really dirty. So, or maybe if you are at someone's house, you can ask, où sont les toilettes? Enchanté, nice to meet you. Bonjour, enchanté, je m'appelle Lia. And here you have 3 of today's words together. Isn't it nice? Bonjour, je m'appelle Lia, enchanté. Comment ça va? Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Lia. How you doing? And you have all of them to greet people and start a nice conversation. So nice to meet you. Enchanté. À bientôt. See you soon. This is what I should say at the end of each video. See you soon or à bientôt. Use it when you leave. That's about it. À demain. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. À demain. Yeah. Au revoir. Bye bye or goodbye. Au revoir is kind of polite. You can use it with everyone as well. So if you want to be more friendly, we use like ciao. Au revoir is only for leaving. So yeah. Goodbye. Goodbye, watchers. See you next time. À bientôt. No, not yet, because I'm gonna see you guys a lot. Bien sûr. Of course. Bien sûr que c'est le cas. If you want to be sarcastic, you can say oui, bien sûr. We mostly use it this way because we like being sarcastic. So yeah, of course. Yes, yes, you are. Yes. Je peux utiliser. May I use something, something? So fill the blank with whatever you want. Can I use your pencil? Je peux utiliser ce stylo. Oui, oui. Je suis désolé. I'm sorry. Ah, yeah, if you bump into someone, you can also use this one. Like, oh, je suis désolé. If I bump into somebody, they won't wake up, duh. Mundo, go where it pleases. Yeah. Terminator is more like this. I'm sorry. Je suis désolé. Pourquoi? Why? Why? Pourquoi? C'est vrai? Really? C'est vrai? C'est vrai? Oh, fine. So, if you're hearing gossip and stuff, you're gonna be like, oh, c'est vrai? No, no, c'est vrai? Oh, c'est vrai? Really? Yeah. And you can use it with all the intonations. C'est vrai? C'est vrai. So the opposite of c'est vrai is c'est pas vrai. No, it's not. Or not really. Je ne comprends pas. I don't understand. Lia never understand. Lia says her name a lot. Or else she forgets. Happened before. When someone is speaking too fast, like I do, I'm sorry, je suis désolé. You can tell them je ne comprends pas. Or, yeah, because they have all those fancy French words and vocabulary, you can be like, non, je ne comprends pas. At the end. So remember those main sentences and don't forget to subscribe and leave me a comment if you ne comprends pas. Bye bye. Au revoir et à bientôt. Please stop it, I'm waving.
Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, What are the different uses of she? This is a good example of a word that has multiple meanings. You've probably already learned that she plus a personal pronoun means home. For example, je rentre chez moi means I'm going back home. But it can also mean at an office. For example, j'ai trouvé un emploi chez Disney means I found a job at Disney. And j'ai un rendez-vous chez le médecin means I have a meeting at the doctor's office. Finally, she can be translated as among or pertaining to. For example, chez les Français, c'est normal de manger du cheval means among French people, it's normal to eat horse meat. And chez les Américains, les socialistes sont assez rares means among Americans, socialists are rather rare. And chez lui, c'est bizarre means that's strange for him. So to recap, she can be a preposition to refer to someone's house or office. But it can also be a more figurative preposition, meaning for them, amongst these people, etc. It has a fairly broad meaning and can be used in lots of situations. For example, if you want to talk about American culture or politics, you can use the same phrase chez les Américains. As long as the subject is understood, she works just fine. Try to incorporate it into your spoken French. You will sound much more fluent, even when you don't know a word. Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below, and I try to answer them. À bientôt! Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, when do you pronounce the S in plus? You might think you should never pronounce the S in plus unless it's before a vowel. But French is an irregular language, and plus is no exception. Whether you pronounce the S in plus and whether you don't also depends on what you mean. So when do you pronounce the S? When you want to say there is more of something. For example, j'ai plus d'amis que toi means I have more friends than you. And when don't we pronounce the S? When we are using plus in a negative sense. So if you want to say no longer, we say ne plus. For example, nous ne sommes plus amis, meaning we are no longer friends. So when you have more of something, add an S. When you are missing something, lose the S. This is helpful because French speakers often drop ne in negative constructions. So if someone says j'ai plus d'animaux, you will know they mean they have more animals. If they say j'ai plus d'animaux, you know that they no longer have any animals. That's it. Easy, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I try to answer them. À bientôt! Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, how do I form the future tenses and when should I use them? There are two future tenses in French, the futur proche and futur simple. Proche means near. When we use futur proche, we're talking about the near future, things that will happen soon. Conjugation is easy. We use the present tense of aller, to go, and then add the infinitive. So the verb nager, to swim, becomes je vais nager, meaning I'm going to swim. Tu vas nager, meaning you're going to swim. Il va nager, meaning he's going to swim, and so on. To make the future simple, we add the stem plus the ending. The verb stem for et and ir verbs is just the infinitive. So the verb stem for nager is nager. The verb stem for finir, to finish, is finir. For re verbs, we drop the i. So vendre becomes vendre. The endings are very similar to the present conjugation of avoir. They're always the same est, a, on, et, on. However, there are irregular stems which you will have to memorize. We go through the most important ones now, saying the verb, its stem, a sample conjugation, and its translation. Aller, ir, j'irai, I will go. Être, ser, tu seras, you will be. Avoir, aur, il aura, we will have. Pouvoir, pour, nous pourrons, we will be able to. Vouloir, voudre, vous voudrez, you will want to. Venir, viendre, elles viendront, they will come. Savoir, saur, je saurai, I will know. Faire, faire, tu feras, you will do or make. Envoyer, envers, elle enverra, she will send. Okay, so which one should you use? You'll use the futur proche for the near future and futur simple for things that are further in the future. If you are going to go swimming right after this lesson, use futur proche. Je vais nager. If you will swim in the ocean on your vacation in Barcelona, use futur simple. Je nagerai dans la mer. Futur simple is also used in some forms, like if statements. But we will cover those in later lessons, so don't worry about it now. If you use mostly futur proche when speaking, you'll be just fine. Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below, and I try to answer them. À bientôt! Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, what is l'Académie Française? L'Académie Française, or the French Academy, is the foremost authority on the French language. They are the ones that decide the standards and rules or norms of the French language. The people who make up the Academy are known as immortals or immortels. There are famous writers, academics, and politicians who are elected for life. The Academy was founded in 1635. During the 17th century, France had a thriving salon culture. A salon is a gathering where people interact for amusement and also to spread knowledge through conversation. Here, men and women of different classes could discuss art, politics, and language on equal footing. This salon culture helped establish France as the center of culture. It also made French the language of refinement and reason in Europe. The Academy began as a salon, but Cardinal de Richelieu, chief minister of Louis XIII, took it under his wing. He was determined to create a powerful French state centered around the king. He turned the Academy into a public institution and charged it with making clear rules for the French language. But what is the purpose of the Academy? Its main goal is to produce the French dictionary. However, it took a long time to finish. The first dictionary published by the Academy took 54 years to complete. Today, the Academy still meets and creates dictionaries. Its rules are not always followed, even by members of the government, but it still has a powerful influence on French culture. The French language is one of the main things that binds French people together. Many people see the French language as France's greatest achievement. In the 20th century, Albert Camus famously said, "Ma patrie, c'est la langue française. My homeland is the French language." That said, French people were not always united in language. Instead of one language, there were many regional languages. In 1794, at least 6 million people out of 28 million French citizens couldn't speak French at all. During the French Revolution, for the first time, the government needed the consent of the people. The French language became one way to unify citizens. Some revolutionaries in Paris were extremely suspicious of regional dialects and identities. These days, regional dialects are not as common, but they still exist. Corsican, Breton, Gallo, Basque, Franco-Provençal, Occitan, and Catalan have official status in their regions. And that's it. I hope I answered your question. If you have any more questions, please leave a comment below and I try to answer them. À bientôt. See you soon. Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, while I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, what are some English words that French speakers often use? There are a lot of English words that are used in spoken French, and a lot of words of foreign origin in general. However, because they are not considered proper French, they are all treated as slang. L'Académie française, or the French Academy, regularly comes up with French words to replace these foreign words, but they don't always catch on. Let's take a look at some examples. This one must be the most popular, the word OK. If you want to speak proper French, say d'accord, or its shortened form, dac. But you will hear French people say OK all the time. Here are some more examples. You can probably guess their meanings. Un weekend, un meeting, faire du jogging, faire du shopping, and stress. Clothes are commonly referred to using English words as well. For example, un pull is a pullover. Un sweat, un t-shirt, les jeans. Here's a fun fact. The English word denim actually comes from French, since denim originally came from the French city Nîmes. They were de Nîmes or from Nîmes. Technology-related words are often from English as well. For example, le Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi, cliquer or to click, blog, podcasting, the list goes on. Not that foreign words are always masculine. So a lot of times you can use an English word with a French accent and it will mean the same thing. But there are other times that they can mean a bit different. Let's go through some examples. Un mail is an email, not a letter or post mail. Top actually means best. Here's one that's a bit tricky. An interview. If someone is being interviewed by the press, then it's un interview. If you are going to a job interview, then it's un entretien. Here are also some non-English loan words which comes from Arabic. Un bled means a small town. Le Casbah means house. And kiffer is a verb meaning to like or love. And that's it for now. Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I try to answer them. À bientôt. Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, while I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, what are some good words to connect and contrast sentences or thoughts? This is a very important subject. Using connecting words will help you express more complex ideas. It will bring your French to the next level and you'll sound much more fluent. Here are some useful words to get you started. If you want to add more to what you've said, use these phrases. En plus, meaning in addition to. En outre, meaning moreover. Du coup, meaning so that means. Note that du coup is very informal and should only be used in conversation. If you want to show a causal relationship, you might use puisque, meaning since or because. For example, puisque c'est l'été, je mange une glace. This means, since it's summer, I eat ice cream. If you want to contradict a sentence, you might use malgré, meaning despite. An example is Je me suis endormi malgré le bruit, meaning I fell asleep despite the noise. Cependant and néanmoins both mean however. Quant à means as for example, quant à lui, il n'a pas pu dormir. This means, as for him, he couldn't sleep. Sinon means otherwise. An example is faites la vaisselle, sinon les abeilles vont revenir. Meaning, wash the dishes, otherwise the bees will come back. Alors que and tandis que both mean whereas or while. And bien que means even though. This needs to be followed by the subjunctive. Okay, that's it. Try using these words in your conversations. They will really help take your French to the next level. Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I try to answer them. À bientôt. See you soon. Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, when should I use the subjunctive? Le subjunctive can be difficult for English speakers, since English doesn't really have a subjunctive mood. Luckily, conjugating the subjunctive is pretty easy. The endings are always the same, but there are some irregular stems. We'll go over some of the irregular stems in this lesson, so you can get used to them. So when do we use the subjunctive? We use the subjunctive after expressions like craindre de, to fear, aimer que, to like, détester que, to hate, souhaiter que, to wish, douter que, to doubt, sembler que, to seem, and falloir que, to have to or must. What do these expressions have in common? They express fear, a wish, command, and uncertainty. Things like this are what we have subjective feelings about. Okay, let's look at some examples. Je suis content que tu sois content, meaning I'm happy that you're happy, is a feeling, and je veux qu'il le fasse, meaning I want him to do it, expresses a will or desire. There are a few things to note here. One, we need two subjects for the subjunctive. One person wanting, wishing, fearing, or demanding another person to do something. Second, take a look at this sentence. Elle ne pense pas que je parle français. This is where subjunctive can get tricky. She doesn't think that I can speak French, meaning she doubts that I can. If she thinks I can, then there is no attitude of doubt. In this case, we don't use the subjunctive. So, ne pas penser que, to not think, uses the subjunctive, whereas penser que, to think, doesn't. Do people use the subjunctive in spoken French? This is a tough question. In written French, you must use the subjunctive when necessary, but in spoken French, it's not so common. However, if you want to speak proper, elegant French, then definitely use the subjunctive. Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I try to answer them. À bientôt. See you soon. Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, how do I make if statements in French? If statements are a great example of conditional sentences. This means that one part of the sentence is conditional to the other part. It can only happen if the other one does. There are three ways of making an if statement, and they vary in how likely or unlikely something is to happen. First, let's talk about the most likely. To make this statement, we use the present tense or the present perfect with the future tense. If I see him, I will say hello. Si je le vois, je lui dirai bonjour. It's not certain that you will see him, but if you do, it's certain that you will say bonjour. Next, let's talk about something that is unlikely. Here, you should use the imperfect and the conditional. This form describes what would happen if the first part comes true. At the moment, it's not true, but it could be. For example, si on pratiquait, on serait intouchable. Meaning, if we practiced, we would be unstoppable. You probably remember the imperfect. You use it to describe things you used to do in the past. The conditional tense might be new to you. To form the conditional, use the same stem as the futur simple and add the imparfait endings. Easy, right? Finally, let's talk about things that are impossible. This uses the conditional perfect. This form is purely hypothetical. You're saying if things had gone differently in the past, then things would be this way. For example, si j'avais écouté ma mère, je n'aurais pas été dans ce pétrin. This means if I had listened to my mother, I wouldn't have been in this mess. Let's have more examples. For a situation where something would really happen if the condition is fulfilled. Si tu écoutes encore ce podcast, ton français s'améliorera. Meaning, if you listen to this podcast again, your French will improve. For a situation where the condition is yet to be fulfilled, si tu pratiquais chaque jour, ton français serait quasiment parfait. This means if you practiced every day, your French would be almost perfect. Lastly, for a condition that is impossible to alter, si tu étais né en France, tu aurais déjà parlé couramment français. This means if you were born in France, you would already speak French fluently. Okay, well, that's all for this lesson. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments below and I try to answer them. À bientôt, see you soon. Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, why are French words spelled so differently from how they are pronounced? French spelling and pronunciation may be one of the biggest stumbling blocks for French learners. And there are lots of reasons why French words look so different from how they are pronounced. The main reason is history. The French language is often called a mix between Latin, from the Romans, and Gaulish, the ancient language of Gaul, or modern-day France and Belgium. Latin was used as the writing system, but over time, as more people became literate, French also became a written language. The only problem was that there was no standardized way of spelling. Guérir, to heal, was sometimes spelled with an A. Fromage was sometimes spelled like this. François was famously spelled with a Y. And remember that many of the people who could read and write also knew Latin. So when l'Académie Française was tasked with standardizing French, there was a big debate. Should French be spelled the way it sounds, or should it show its Latin roots? For this reason, it might feel like you are only pronouncing half a word. This is to show its Latin origins, which were once pronounced. Or just as important, the pronunciation might have changed while the spelling stayed the same. For example, the en ending of third-person plural verbs used to be pronounced. Now it's silent and just sounds like the third-person singular. It also led to some interesting spelling innovations. For example, the circumflex. This accent means that an S used to follow the letter. Fête used to be fest or feast. Bête used to be best or beast. So the short answer is that oral language changes while spelling often stays the same. However, In 2016, the Academy made spelling reforms. If you pay attention, you can see language changing all the time. Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I try to answer them. À bientôt. See you soon. Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, why do some verbs sometimes use être and sometimes use avoir to make passé composé? As you might remember, some verbs in passé composé are conjugated with être instead of avoir. These verbs are our Dr. and Mrs. Van der Trump verbs. Dr. and Mrs. Van der Trump is a mnemonic device for remembering the verbs conjugated with être. They are verbs associated with movement and change. But sometimes you will see a Van der Trump verb conjugated with avoir instead. Why? It all has to do with meaning. If you are talking about the subject moving or changing, use être. You use avoir as your auxiliary verb when there is an object involved. Let's take a look and see how the meaning changes with some examples. Je suis sortie le soir means I went out for the night. J'ai sorti les valises means I took out the suitcases. Because the action is happening to the suitcases, you use avoir. Je suis montée means I went up, while j'ai monté les valises means I brought up the suitcases. And je suis descendue du train means I got off the train. J'ai descendu les valises means I brought down the suitcases. Je suis rentrée means I came back home, while j'ai rentré les chiens means I brought in the dogs. Je suis retournée à la ville means I came back to the city, while j'ai retourné la table means I turned the table over. Here's a tricky one. Je suis montée dans l'ascenseur. J'ai monté l'escalier. The first means I went upstairs in the elevator, and the second means I took the stairs up. So be careful. Passé is a special verb because the meanings are very different. Je suis passée par la librairie means I passed by the bookstore or I went by the bookstore. J'ai passé l'été à Dakar means I spent the summer in Dakar. If you want to describe movement, use être to conjugate passé. If you want to talk about figurative passing, like passing time, use avoir. For example, elle est passée par la porte means she went out through the door. And elle a passé le week-end avec son copain means she spent the weekend with her boyfriend. Finally, il m'a passé le sel means he passed me the salt. So remember that if you conjugate with avoir, the action is happening to a direct object. If you use être, the action is happening to you. That's it. I hope that answered your question. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I try to answer them. À bientôt. See you soon. Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, what are some good recommendations for studying French through movies and music? You could write a book to answer this question, but we'll try to be short. France has been at the heart of movie culture since the beginning of cinema. Nouvelle Vague, or New Wave, was an art movement in the 50s and 60s. François Truffaut was one of its most important metteurs en scène, or directors. The 400 Blows, or Les 400 Coups, and Stolen Kisses, or Baiser volé, are some of the films he made about one character, Antoine Doinel, from childhood to adulthood. And they used the same actor from when he was a boy until he was an adult. The Battle of Algiers, or La Bataille d'Alger, is actually an Italian film, but it's about France's loss of their colony Algeria. It's a very intense film and stars some people who were actually involved in the Algerian War. If you want to learn more about the north of France, check out Welcome to the Sticks or Bienvenue chez les Ch'tis. This is a more recent comedy and plays heavily on northern stereotypes, so take it with a grain of salt. Hate or La Haine is another very intense film. It takes place in the suburbs or banlieue of Paris. Another good film that takes place in Les Banlieues is Girlhood or Bande de Filles. It follows a teenage girl growing up in the suburbs. You might want to relax a bit after watching these intense films. For that, I would recommend Le Fabuleux Destin d'Amélie Poulain, which is also known as Amélie. This is a very popular movie from France and is known for its romantic portrayal of Paris. Another fun film is Children of Paradise, or Les Enfants du Paradis, an old movie about a very talented mime. For music, we'll go over some of the major French stars. Serge Gainsbourg is like the Bob Dylan of France, but with a greater love for controversy. In his songs, he covers everything: the 60s, his love affairs with the most beautiful woman in France, reggae, his daughter. He also sings about World War II, which, as a young Jewish boy, he spent hiding in an orphanage. You might already know Edith Piaf's music from the film Inception. A film was also made about her life called La Môme, better known as La Vie en Rose. If you like more modern music, I recommend NTM, a famous rap group. Java is another rap group, though it is not as hardcore as NTM. Dionysos is an indie band that often collaborates with the French singer Olivia Ruiz. And Noir Désir is a good start if you're interested in French rock. But whatever you like, music is a great way to connect with other people. So look around and listen to lots of music. You'll be studying French without even realizing it. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I try to answer them. À bientôt! See you soon! Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, how does the French school system work and what is the baccalauréat? Le baccalauréat is an exam that students can take at the end of their secondary education. Taking the exam will give you a diploma that shows your skill level of certain subjects. Le baccalauréat, or le bac, is also required in order to go into a university. There are three different types of baccalauréat: le baccalauréat général, le baccalauréat technologique, and le baccalauréat professionnel. Le baccalauréat général is further split up into series, kind of like majors. You can pursue le baccalauréat économique et social, ES, le baccalauréat littéraire, L, or le baccalauréat scientifique, S. This prepares students to enter universities. Le baccalauréat technologique has 8 series and prepares students for working in laboratories, management, or applied arts. Many students go on to study these subjects at university. Le baccalauréat professionnel prepares students to begin working immediately. You can specialize in over 80 different subjects, like industrial maintenance or electric systems. Le bac is scored out of 20, like all French exams. A 10 is a passing grade. A 12 or 13 is assez bien, or satisfactory. 14 or 15 is bien, or good. And 16 or above is très bien, very well done. Le baccalauréat takes a long time to complete. If you take le baccalauréat général série scientifique, you will have to sit for 12 exams total. and some of the exams are 4 hours long. Because of this, students spend their last 2 years preparing for le bac. The school system up until university is quite different from the US system. We'll go through them in chronological order. École maternelle is preschool and starts at age 2 to 5. CP is first grade and the first year of école élémentaire. CE1, CE2, CM1, CM2. Sixième is similar to 6th grade. In France, it is the first year of collège or middle school. Cinquième, quatrième, troisième. Seconde is the first year of lycée or high school. Première is when students would begin studying for le bac. This is the year they would take les épreuves anticipées, exams that everyone takes. Terminale is the last year of lycée. Students spend this year studying for the specific type of bac they want to take. If you are a high school student who is dreaming about attending a French university, you're in luck. You don't have to take the bac to apply. You just have to take a French language exam. And that's it. Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below, and I try to answer them. À bientôt! Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, when I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, when should I use the pronoun on? On is a very useful personal pronoun. It is conjugated exactly the same as il ou elle, meaning he or she, and it means either one or we. On is a special pronoun because sometimes it refers to no one in particular. In English, we might translate it as the general one. For example, à Paris, on peut voir les anciennes maisons d'écrivains célèbres. Means, in Paris, one can see the former homes of famous writers. Because on is used in an indeterminate way, it's very important in making the passive voice. For example, on m'a dit de partir, meaning I was told to leave. Or, on a trouvé un portefeuille, meaning a wallet was found. But more commonly, on is used to mean we. It's actually less formal than using nous. And it connotes that on is a group or une bande in French. So it's more friendly and familiar. Because it's conjugated like il ou elle, it's also easier to conjugate than nous. For example, on est allé au cinéma et on a vu la nouvelle comédie. Means, we went to the movies and saw the new comedy. On is used all the time by native speakers and it's easier to conjugate. So, if you use on, you'll sound more fluent and have less to conjugate. And that's it! If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments below and I try to answer them. À bientôt! See you soon! Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, when I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, how do you say something looks like, resemble, smells like, or tastes like? First, let's go through the useful verbs. Ressembler means to resemble. An example is, il ressemble à un acteur que je connais, meaning he looks like an actor I know. Another verb is se ressembler, meaning to look alike. Elles viennent d'autres coins du monde, mais elles se ressemblent quand même. Means, they come from different sides of the earth, but they resemble each other anyway. Avoir l'air de means to seem like or to look like. An example is ce repas a l'air bon, meaning this meal looks good. Another example is cette fille a l'air un peu nerveuse, meaning this girl looks a little nervous. The verb sentir means to smell like, to taste like, or to feel like. Sentir has a lot of definitions. So let's go over this in more detail. Overall, You can think of sentir as meaning to have the feeling of. Sentir, se sentir et ressentir can be used to talk about emotional feelings and thoughts. But with sentir, the feeling can also be taste, smell, or touch. You can tell what it means by context, but it's usually used to mean to smell like. If someone walks into the room, covers their nose, and says, "Ça sent les chaussettes," you know that they mean, "It smells like socks." If someone is eating a soup and says, "Ça sent les champignons," this means it has the taste of mushrooms. If someone says this, they probably mean there is just the hint of mushrooms in the soup. The last verb is avoir le goût de, to taste like. An example with this is, "Ça a le goût de quoi exactement?" This means, what does it taste like exactly? Be careful not to mix up avoir le goût de and goûter, because goûter means to literally taste something and you can't use it to say something tastes like. The subject has to be a person. So, un potage ne peut pas goûter d'ail means a soup cannot taste the garlic. And it doesn't make any sense. The correct sentence would look like this. Je voudrais goûter le vin d'Alsace. I would like to try Alsatian wine. Goûter is a great verb for sharing and for trying new food, which you definitely want to do in France. Here are more examples. Tu veux le goûter? Meaning, do you want to try it? Or, goûter le pain, il est frais. Meaning, try the bread, it's fresh. And that's it for this lesson. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments below and I try to answer them. À bientôt. See you soon. Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, how do I express doubt or uncertainty? In English, we usually use modal verbs to express doubt or uncertainty, like might or would. French, however, doesn't have modal verbs. You have to use completely different constructions. Let's start with might, as in I might go to the party. The easiest way to do this is to simply add the adverb peut-être, meaning maybe. So you would get je vais peut-être à la fête. Another way to say might or may is to use il se peut que plus the subjunctive. For example, il se peut que la voiture soit en panne, meaning it is possible that the car is broken down, or the car might be broken down. But be careful, if you want to say something might have happened in the past, you have to use past subjunctive. So, for example, il se peut que je l'ai lu. This means I might have read it, or it's possible that I've read it. Let's move on to could and take the sentence I could eat a whale. In this case, you're speaking about something you could do in the future. So you use the conditional of the verb can, which is pouvoir, and you get je pourrais manger une baleine. But let's say you want to talk about something you could have done in the past. In this case, you would use pouvoir in the past perfect. For example, j'aurais pu manger une baleine, meaning I could have eaten a whale. Now let's look at would. You probably already know this form in the present tense. For example, je voudrais le croque-monsieur. I would like the croque-monsieur. This is the conditional present. You may also remember it from a previous lesson about if statements. For example, on partirait si vous étiez prêt, meaning we would leave if you were ready. This is case 2, an unlikely situation that could come true if something else happened first. If you want to say that you would have in the past, then just conjugate the verb in the conditional perfect. For example, j'aurais voulu un croque-monsieur, meaning I would have liked a croque-monsieur. Finally, let's talk about should. Should is conjugated as the conditional of the verb devoir, meaning to have to or must. Then you add the infinitive of the verb that you should have done. For example, je devrais manger, meaning I should eat. Or on devrait partir, meaning we should leave. This is a very helpful construction. So make sure to memorize the conditional present tense of devoir. If you want to talk about something you should have done, conjugate devoir in the conditional perfect. I should have eaten would be j'aurais dû manger. We should have left would be on aurait dû partir. You should have memorized it would be vous auriez dû le mémoriser. And that's it. I hope that helped. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments below and I try to answer them. À bientôt. See you soon. Hi everybody, Candice here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, while I answer your most common French questions. The question for this lesson is, what are bandes dessinées? Bandes dessinées are comics and they are an important part of French culture. France has the third largest comic book market in the world, after US and Japan. In fact, BDs are often called le 9e art, or the 9th art. Unlike typical comics, which are usually funny or just for kids, French BDs can be about almost any subject and for any age. Bandes dessinées are also a great way to improve your French, since many are targeted to children. You may already know some. It should be noted that a lot of these BDs were made by Belgian authors. Les BD franco-belges are comics that are made for French and Belgian audiences. Because they share the same language, they often share comics as well. Here are some popular series you might want to check out. Les Aventures de Tintin, or The Adventures of Tintin, is a famous comic about a young detective, his dog, and his strange friends. Astérix is a funny series about girls resisting the romance. There's also the Smurfs, or as they're known in France, les Schtroumpfs, were created in Belgium. A more recent comic is Le Bleu est une couleur chaude. It was recently made into the film. Blue is the warmest color. Persepolis is another recent bande dessinée about a girl growing up during the Iranian Revolution. So if you want to improve your French, try reading bande dessinée. It will help you with French grammar, vocab, and culture while reading interesting stories. That's it. Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I try to answer them. À bientôt. See you soon.
Want to speed up your language learning? Take your very first lesson with us. You'll start speaking in minutes and master real conversations. Sign up for your free lifetime account. Just click the link in the description.